I've listened to a few interviews with you recently where you've talked about your own background in the sport and how you sort of kind of like changed up the dynamic really of a few things. Has anyone sort of come up to you since those interviews and said, look, that's meant a lot to me what you said there, I felt differently about this and it's empowered me to do different things?
I've had people from across the spectrum. I've had people message me and said, hey, I won't lie, I saw this documentary about you, or I saw this about you, and I've never talked to a Muslim before, and you've changed my perception about what Muslims are about. So that in itself is awesome. Yeah. I've had people from the Muslim faith reach out to me and said, hey, it's such a relief to see a positive portrayal on TV finally. And then I've had people from, again, it's nothing specific, people from across the spectrum say in some way that they felt a label that was placed upon them has defined them, and what I'm doing inspires them to shred that label and to think outside that barrier. And like, what a cool concept, because that's actually like my mission in life. That's like what I feel like I was put on here to do. I want to erase all these preconceived ideas, so for people to come up to me on the street or message me or send a tweet or whatever, I see them all, and it does mean a lot.
Because when you were a kid and you were seeing, Muslims and people from sort of your background portrayed in a specific way in wrestling, how did that make you feel? Was it like sadness and anger or sort of a bit of everything?
When I was younger, I didn't get it, because I thought of myself as just another American kid, so I was booing the Iron Sheik with everybody else, what I mean? Like, boo, USA. When 9/11 happens, I suddenly felt very alienated. I was reminded very quickly that despite being from Chicago, despite being an American, I wasn't sought or thought of as an American. And then to see a portrayal like Muhammad Hassan, who I thought was saying all the right things, but just because he was saying what he was saying, he was the bad guy. And it goes across, and it's not just wrestling, it goes into movies, like when there's a terrorist, who is it? It's Abdul, it's whatever. So you grow up with that, and then you realize you don't have these Muslim figures to look up to. You don't have people that look the way I look, or with the name like mine, portrayed in any type of positive manner. So it is frustrating, and it also gets like, I myself am guilty of doing that. Before I came to WWE, I was portraying that character. And I remember very specifically seeing a young man at a show, and just by walking past him, he had jumped out of his chair and he put his hands up. And I looked right into his eyes and I said, I taught this kid to hate people that look like me. I taught him that. So
was that sort of the moment?
That was the moment. I said, I can't do it anymore. I'm just going to be Mustafa Ali or Ali now. And that's it. I'm not going to play into any preconceived ideas. I'm not going to do these notions or these roles that historically were accepted. I refuse to do it. And here we are, 2019. We're making some changes, y'all.
Yeah, massively. And how did that go with the company? Were there conversations to use you in that way, or were you always sort of set on being what you are now?
Yeah, no. So when I first came into the company, when I was in the Cruiserweight Classic, I was a heel. And I was a heel just to be a heel. They didn't push the prerogative, so to speak. When I get to 205 Live, I had a conversation with Road Dogg, and it was Road Dogg himself that brought up the kind of, why do you have to be a bad guy? So Road Dogg himself asked, like, why do you have to be the bad guy? He's like, you've got this amazing moveset. Like, I think you're onto something. And I showed him what I would say and what the message is and this and that, and it's still a gamble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to send out a guy with that name, still a gamble. We don't know how the crowd's received, so he said we can give it a shot. So all the credit in the world to Road Dogg for giving me the shot.
Yeah, and obviously you are a babyface character now. You do a lot of sort of high-flying, impressive kind of like babyface moves. Yeah. Do you ever get any sort of hate from the crowd? Are there any of those kind of dated attitudes you're still seeing?
Yeah, it's almost like it's come to the point where the response is so positive. It's very, very hard to find the negative. I almost have to look for the negative. You know what I mean? It's not overwhelmingly negative. There was a time when I first started out that, there was, people would yell some racial slurs at me and whatnot. And I'm still relatively new. But with that going, it's not nearly as bad as what people would think it is. It's not. And that to me just shows that there is way more good in this world than there is evil. You know what I mean? There is way more light than there is dark. So, no, it's not overwhelming by any means. You get a few guys here and there. My wife wears a hijab. She wears a scarf on her head. I'll post a picture. One person will have some smart comment about it. I'll go, take the extra step, and I'll be positive, and I'll respond to them with a kind message, educating them on the fact. So it just kind of goes to show, like, you can be the light in the dark.